I'm going to be showing you how to use the selection tools and the layers palette within the Pixlr editor, so the online editing software. And you can see I've got an example of what's going to be covered in the session. So we're going to be looking at various different selection tool techniques. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm using Google Chrome for this exercise. I'm going to create a new tab and I'm just going to type in pixlr.com. Now when you first come to this page, what you'll need to do is to select up here where it says Pixlr E for Pixlr Editor. We're then going to open, I'm not going to open an image, let's cancel that. We will create a new image. And then up here, you've got the pixel width of the image that you're going to create. So you can see that it gives the maximum here of 4096 by 4096. So that's just a bit larger than A4, and that will print good quality in between A4 and A3 size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to 4096 for the width. Then the height is going to be 2896, and that will print out at good quality with a 35cm width, so that's in between A4 and A3. I'm just going to call this one Motif, Exploration, Selection Tools. We'll leave the background off because we are going to be working with layers and transparency. So we'll hit create. And then we're going to open an image to work with. So I'll go to File, Open. I've got various different photos that I'm using for this project. Some of these are just photos of textures. This one is a photo from inside a hotel, and it had various different coloured glass within the windows, so it kind of created these really lovely textures. This is the one I'm going to use for this tutorial. I'm just going to minimise this now. And I'm going to go over to my selection tools over here. So we're just going to be exploring the lasso tool. Click on lasso. You can see that it's very similar to Photoshop. And once I click on lasso, I can select the type over here. So I've got the just a normal lasso for freehand drawing. I've got the polygon lasso, and I've also got the magnetic lasso, which will kind of look at borders and edges. So I'm going to select polygon lasso, and the mode is set to new selection at the moment. I'm going to left click to add my fastening points in. You can see that dotted line indicates the edge of the selection. I'm just going to go all around the area that I want to pick up. And when I get back to the start point, I'm going to click on that, and you can see it's transformed to a moving dotted line selection. I'm then just going to go to Edit Copy, go to my new document, and Edit Paste. And you can see it's zooming in and zooming out kind of on its own at the moment, but if you want to adjust the zoom level, you can actually use the same shortcut as in Photoshop, so that's Command on a Mac or Control on a PC, and the plus symbol, and Command and minus to zoom out. I'm then going to go to my main selection tool, and if I click on that layer in the image, it kind of brings up the boundary box that's around the outside of it, which lets you click and drag to move it around, and it also lets you rotate it as well. That's clicking and dragging on that small dot over there. If I'm zoomed in and I want to move around the image, I can go to the hand tool here and then click and drag. Or what I can do is hold down the space bar to actually, let's go back here. If I hold down the space bar, it brings up the hand tool temporarily, and then you can click and drag to move around the image. So go back to my main selection tool, and I can also click and drag the corner boxes to make it bigger and smaller. And what it also does is when you're resizing your layers, it will keep the same proportions. So I'm going to go back to my original image, and then I am going to deselect that. So go select and then deselect. Go back to my polygon lasso tool, and I'm going to select and take another section. If I press enter, it finishes off the selection. So I can either go edit copy, or you can see it gives you the keyboard shortcut there, it's Control C. So go Control C, Control V for paste. And sometimes I've noticed that sometimes that doesn't work. So if any of your keyboard shortcuts don't work, you can just go to the native way of doing that. So edit paste, go to my main selection tool, make that a bit bigger, rotate that around a bit. And what you also might want to do is to duplicate your layers. So you can see that at the moment, every time I copy and paste something, it pastes it onto a new layer, and each one of those sections is kind of on an individual layer of its own. That's showing over here. You can collapse and expand these panels in the top right here. So if you can't see them, use these little arrows. I'm going to click the minus symbol here on the history panel to minimise that panel, and if I want to get it back up, click that. So I can see more of my layers. Now if I wanted to duplicate this layer, I'm going to right click on the layer and go down to here, duplicate layer. And then you can see it's copied and pasted it onto a new layer. I can move that around. So I'm just going to move these around. I'm going to create a small composition that might work well once I convert that into a repeat pattern. So I'm just playing around the shape, playing around with scale and motif. So again, I'm going to take this one, right click and duplicate, move that over, rotate that around. So you can see I'm starting to build up some repetition in the image now. Again, let's duplicate that again, make that a bit smaller, rotate it around. Okay, so now that we've had a basic look at some of the layers and selection tools, I will now show you how to merge layers together. So if I click on one of my layers, and then I want to click on the top layer of the layers panel here. So if I wanted to merge these 4 layers together, I need to click on the top one in the stacking order here. So each time you click on a layer, you can see where it's highlighted in the layers panel. So this is the top layer. If I wanted to reorder it, I can just click and drag to kind of sit that underneath. So for example with this one, if I wanted that to sit underneath the rest of them, I'm going to click and drag in the layers panel and just bring that down. So make that a bit bigger, rotate it, and yeah, leave that over there. So I'm now wanting to merge all of my layers together, well this cluster. So click on the top one, I'm going to right click on the layer, and I'm going to go down to merge down, and that will merge it to the one that's underneath, as you can see. Then I'm going to do that again, right click, merge down, right click, merge down, and you can see it's now clustered together. And then if I wanted to, I could duplicate that layer and kind of continue working with that. Now let's go in and have a look at some of the other selection tools. So if I go back to my main photo, I'm going to deselect that. And then I can go to my lasso tool again, I'm going to click on the freehand lasso tool, and that just allows you to kind of click and drag around an area that you want to select. So if it's not a kind of geometric shape, this one's quite useful. This one's quite useful, especially if you're working with a Wacom tablet or a graphics tablet. It's much easier. Now, say for example you've got an active selection that you then want to, say, move or remove this darker area here from the active selection. You want to use this mode symbol here. So you've got three icons: new selection, add to selection, or remove from selection. If I select remove from selection, and then, let's just go back into that. I can click and drag around the area that I want to remove, and you can see it removes it. And you can also switch between different selection tools when you're using these modes. So if I wanted to use the polygon lasso tool to actually remove that bit from the selection, click on the polygon and then select remove from selection. Click a few times around the area that you want to select, and you can see it's now removed it. So I can do the same thing up here. And the same goes for this icon here. So if I wanted to then add in, extend the selection, so say I don't like this rough line on the edge there, I can click on add to selection, and I can go in and just click a few times to add in those straight edges and go inside of the selection there, double click, and you can see it's added it all as one. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. There we go. And then again, I can copy and paste that into here. Now, I'm going to go back and deselect that. We can now have a look at some of the marquee select tools as well. So this one will create a rectangular or square selection. So I'm going to zoom out a bit. It's already created an active selection for me, so I can just deselect that. I'm going to click and drag to create a rectangle, and if I hold down the shift key at the same time, it will create a square. It should do. It doesn't look like that's working, so if you want to create a square, you want to look at where it says the width and the height values that are kind of changing. Make sure that they are the same values. So it might be a bit fiddly, but we can just adjust that so you can see it's set to 55 and 55. Let go, copy and paste. Okay, so that's us done with this video. For the next video, I'll be showing you how to adjust parts of your image to change the colour and how to add a colour palette in. So look at the next video in this tutorial, and if you like this video, please click like and subscribe for more fashion and textile videos. Thanks very much. Bye.